tragic incident is Julius Ogony, who is a renowned ICT and disaster management expert with experience in crisis response as well as safety protocols. Mr. Ogony, thank you so much for your time tonight. Now, given the recurring incidents of school fires in Kenya, what would you say are the immediate safety lapses that you believe may have contributed to this tragedy taking place today?
Thank you, Michelle, for this opportunity to be in your studio. First of all, allow me to, on behalf of my family, to convey our condolences to the families, friends and relatives who lost their loved ones, and wish the quick recovery for those who are in hospital who got injured. This tragedy is not new. As they have mentioned, Changuli was the first one in 1991. And we should be having history of how these things happen and what was done. We should be taking stock. What didn't we do at that time, or what was not done right? Because it looks like these tragedies are recurring with the same sort of precedences. And we are wondering, when will we stop having these tragedies in schools? And it's not only fire. There are very many tragedies which happen. In fact, even on travels, we have seen school buses having accidents, students having accidents during sports, and so on and so forth. And even having food poisoning and so on. So the question is this: where is our preparedness, first of all, even as a nation, before even come to the ministry?
All right, so we'll be asking a lot more questions on how much more schools could have been prepared, considering, as you say, there's been several incidents and several reports as a regard of these incidents and recommendations as well. Let's take a break on NTV Weekend Edition. Julius Ogony is a disaster management expert, helping us understand what went wrong and how we can prevent such incidents from happening in Kenyan schools moving forward. Let's take a break. We do invite your feedback on this conversation. Do speak to us on X. The hashtag is NTV Weekend Edition. Good evening and welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. Now, tonight, the entire country mourns the lives of the 17 young lives cut short at the Hillside and Arusha Academy in Nyeri County. And as we seek to ask questions and really get answers on how such a catastrophe could have happened, we're also looking to see what can be done to avoid such incidents taking place in future. And in studio with us is disaster management expert Julius Ogony to help us understand what really happened. And Mr. Ogony, one of the biggest questions in this crisis is whether the school had a policy on disaster management and emergency response, which is a requirement for safety in schools.
Yeah, Michelle, we have to find out if the school actually had disaster management policy or plan in place, because this could have guided the school to know if there was a danger looming. Because there are only two categories of disasters. You could have sudden onset or slow onset. And most of the time, slow onset disasters build over time. And they just wait for a trigger factor or just a threshold. And so normally it could give the school time to see if there's signs of something building up. And in this particular case, was there a sign of discontent amongst the pupils or the staff? Were there signs of the building having some problems, whether electrical or, things like that? And if they were there, what did the school do?
Right. It's interesting you mentioned that, because in past cases of school fires, investigators pointed to many times faulty electrical wiring. And so what are some of the steps then that schools should take to ensure that the electrical systems are safe and regularly inspected?
There's what we call routine inspection and maintenance of infrastructure. A building is normally supposed to be inspected by building inspectors. Okay, for this particular dormitory, I'm told it was a wooden dormitory in terms of structure. the materials used to build the dormitory. But the question is this: is that the standard approved by the government and the Ministry of Works for students' habitation in school? That's one question we ask. Secondly, what was there somebody responsible, or did they check the electrical installation of that particular building? And that's why I'm saying if there was routine inspection and maintenance, somebody could have picked up an electrical fault and it could have been repaired. At this particular point, we don't know whether the cause of the fire was electrical, or it was a human error, or it was man-made.
Right.
We don't know.
And now that you bring that up, Kenya has actually seen an increase in cases of arson in schools, and the media has reported on this before. What measures would you suggest to both detect and even prevent potential cases of arson in schools before they occur?
There are several things which the school can put in place. One, because if you look at the school environment, we have the heads, maybe the head and the deputy, and we have the teachers, and then we have the prefects, and then we have the students. The problem is this: sometimes students' unrest are things which are wished away even by the heads. And as I said, some of them are slow onset. They build over time. Students start complaining of something, or they show signs of discontent about certain issues, and nobody takes them serious. People wish them away and say, that one will die a natural death, or it is something which we can do with, or we can manage. But remember, students are students. All of us have been students, and sometimes they think irrationally. They don't know the consequences of the end result of what they can do.
Okay.
But at times, also, the teachers should be able to learn their students from how they behave.
All right. Now, earlier on, I read a part of the condolence message from President William Ruto to the affected families. And part of his message says that the country has to find out why the incident took place, but also why the response took so long. In your experience, how well equipped really are Kenyan schools to handle such emergencies? And could this disaster have been mitigated?
Well, that one now brings us now to the 4 phases of disaster. The first one is preparedness. Second phase of disaster is prevention / mitigation. If you can't prepare, be ready to prevent it and mitigate it. And if you can't prevent it, be ready to respond. If you can't respond, you get beaten, you recover. Now, these 4 phases, the first 2 are very, very important. What we see most of the time, and even now, we are seeing the last 2. I can see a lot counseling being talked about, and counseling is something you can't do in a day. It's a period of time. It can even take years. This is something which will linger in the heads of children and parents, and even the community, plus the teachers, for years. So why don't we invest most of the time? Why don't we invest in the first 2 phases, preparedness and prevention? It's normally, and I can say authoritatively, it's normally ignored. When you see Red Cross coming in, Red Cross is actually Red Cross is a recovery agency, not even a responder. It's a recovery agency. That's why they come in with foodstuff, blankets, and so on, so that they try to bring back life to normalcy. What happens where are the agency for the first 2 critical phases? Preparedness and prevention. Right. What did they do before we reach the last 2 phases, which are normally, we put them in the red?
Okay, so what can be done next, Mr. Ogony? Because as per the President's condolence message, is likely to be an investigation, perhaps even a task force looking into this incident. We've seen this in previous school fires, even the Moi Academy fire a few years back. There's been several reports on the shelves with regard to how we can prevent such incidents of school fires in the country. Why have these reports not been implemented, and how can we move forward with the recommendations in some of these reports?
Okay, I cannot answer about how the reports are going to be used or why they have not been used. But as a government, we can come up develop a guide for disaster management in schools. This is a very, very important document because it will cover end to end. And this plan, the guide, should contain all the required details, including the agencies which the school must work with, who are the first responders, and they should be having even direct contact to them. It should also guide the teachers on how to handle incidences in school. And remember, this is a living document because threats and hazards will keep changing depending on the environment the school is in and depending on what is happening in school. What we think is a threat today, or what we think is not a threat today, will be a threat tomorrow. I've heard of one case, or one thing where saying that accessing that school was a problem for them to reach the fire brigade and so on. You see, this is something which should not happen in this era.
All right.
And even in our own slums here, city council will remove their fire engines to go and help people in this, but they can't reach where the fire is because there is no access. For a school, we expect things like access to be well done, well managed, and even escape routes should be there.
All right.
Then the other thing is, we are hearing about students who cannot be accounted for. I wonder where the assembly point for that school is. That is very important.
Okay, that's a crucial question that you raised, Mr. Ogony. You must take a break here on NTV Weekend Edition. Many, many thanks for your time and expertise as we make sense of the tragedy that has thrown the country into mourning tonight. We took a break on the broadcast. When we come back, the latest in business news with Nina Shabana.